Okay, we shall continue with our lecture. Now, 3 factors the court must consider before a breach of duty arises. Firstly, magnitude of the risk. What is magnitude of the risk? The likelihood that injury will be incurred and the seriousness of injury that is raised. Okay, now we look at this case, Bolton and Stone. Plaintiff was standing on a highway in a road adjoining a cricket ground. Okay, basically she was on a highway. The road is adjoining the cricket ground and she was struck by the ball. Now what happened? There were occasions of the ball coming out from the ground, but bear in mind, the club had actually put a 7-foot fence, which was quite a distance from the particular road. However, on that day, unfortunately, one of the ball goes out and hit the plaintiff. Now, a court held that into taking account the distance from the pitch to the edge of the ground, the presence of the 7-foot fence and the upward slide of the ground in the direction. Okay, we just adjust a bit here. Okay, and the upward slope of the ground in the direction in which the ball was struck, the likelihood of injury to a person in a plaintiff position was so slight, meaning there's a slim chance of somebody getting hurt with that particular part of the way it was positioned, right? So the court held that the cricket club was not negligent in allowing cricket to be played because basically they have taken additional precaution. Now what about the other one? Okay, look at this case, Hilda and Associated Portland Cement Manufacturer. See, this husband was riding his motorcycle along a road, okay, outside a piece of land occupied by the defendant, and there were children were permitted to play football on the open land. Now, a ball was kicked into the road, causing the plaintiff husband to have accident. Now, court held that in view of the likelihood of injury to passerby, because there was no fence to block balls coming out from the open land, okay, so basically the defendants are liable for having permitted the football to be played in that open land without having taken any additional precaution. Okay, now compare Hilda and this Bolton. So one was basically there was precaution. Okay, second one, there was no precaution. This is on the likelihood that the injury will be occurred. Okay, now what about this one? Okay, we know there's seriousness and likelihood. Now we look into this case. Okay, this Paris and Stepney Boroughs Council case whereby plaintiff one-eyed man, okay, he was employed by defendant working in the conditions that involve some risk to eye injury. Okay, but the likelihood of injury was not sufficient to call upon the defendant to provide goggles to normal to eye workmen. Now basically they don't need to provide goggles for normal man, normal person which has 2 eyes. But the court held that the plaintiff should have been provided with goggles since he risks much greater injury because he has only 1 eye. So 2 eye, if something happened to the 2 eye man, there's chance of seeing with another eye. But the plaintiff basically being a 1 eye man, so his risk is much greater. So basically, the defendant is guilty. Now, what about the importance of the object? Okay. It is necessary to balance the risk against the consequences of not taking it. What happens if you don't take it? Okay. Now, if you look into this case, Dubban against both tramways, where Lord Justice Asquith remarked, As has often been pointed out, if all the trains in this country were restricted to a speed of 5 miles an hour, there would be fewer accidents. So basically, if you drive very slowly, there will be fewer accidents. But our national life would be intolerably slowed down. You can't help it. You have to go beyond. So the purpose to serve, if is sufficiently important, justify the assumption of abnormal risk. So where the purpose to be served in taking the risk is sufficiently important to justify the taking of the risk, the defendant is not liable. Okay? Okay. Now look at this case. Warren and Hertfordshire County Council. Warren, a fireman, was injured by the movement of a heavy jack when travelling in it with it on a lorry not specially equipped for carrying it. So he was a fireman. He injured when he was in a lorry which was not manned or equipped to carry that particular heavy jack. So a woman had been trapped under a heavy vehicle and the jack was urgently required. So basically, this fireman actually go to this particular scene of accident where a woman has been trapped, and this heavy jack is used to help this woman. Okay, the jack is used to actually uplift the heavy vehicle. Now, God help that the fire authorities were not negligent, because the risk taken in respect of war was not so great as to prohibit the attempt to save life. Okay, but if the same accident had occurred in a commercial enterprise, what would have recovered? So basically, he was a fireman. They needed to use it, and they looked into the risk of taking it. So basically, fire authorities was not negligent. But however, in normal circumstances, the fireman would actually be able to claim. Yeah. So the commercial end to make profit is different from the human end to save life or limb. Okay, there was this risk of saving the woman's life. Okay, and his duty as a fireman. Okay, now, what about practicability of precaution? The risk must be balanced against measures necessary to eliminate, and the practical measures where the defendant could have taken must be considered. Now, look at this case, Latima and AEC. Factory floor became slippery after a flood. Occupiers did everything to get rid of the effects of the flood. Nevertheless, plaintiff was injured. Okay, and then claimed that occupiers should have closed down the factory. So basically, plaintiff said, look, you should have closed the factory. Okay, now court held that the risk of injury created by the slippery floor was not so great so as to justify, okay, to close down the factory. Okay, so it was unfortunate that plaintiff injured. Okay, now what about defendant is a professional? So standard required for professional is higher than the ordinary defendant. So the standard of care is different. So why? Because this professional possess special skill and knowledge in their profession. Okay. Now, we look into the third element. The third element to be proven in order to establish negligence is damage. Okay, that have incurred due to the breach of duty by the defendant. And basically, plaintiff damage must not be too remote of a consequence. Okay, now this means one has to ask whether the breach of duty was the primary cause of the damage. If the if the defendant's breach of duty was the primary cause of damage, then basically defendant is guilty towards plaintiff. Now, okay, the test used is but for test. Okay, or in other words, if not for, or if you are using Malay, kalau tidak kerana. So the question is, but for the defendant's breach of duty, would the plaintiff have suffered any injury or damage? Okay, If the answer is yes, then the defendant's breach did not cause the plaintiff injury. Basically, okay, even if, okay, defendant breached the duty, plaintiff would still suffer injury. Now look at this case. Barnett and Chelsea and Kensington Hospital Management. So what happened in this case? Plaintiff husband went to defendant's hospital, complained vomiting after drinking tea. The nurse on duty consulted doctor, but the doctor did not, doctor did not actually treated the patient. Okay, so basically plaintiff husband died of arsenical poisoning. Now court held that in failing to examine the disease, the doctor was breach of his duty of care, right? But this breach was not caused the death. His breach of failure to take care of the plaintiff was not the cause of the plaintiff's death. It means, even if the disease had been examined and treated with proper care, probability would that it would still be impossible to save the plaintiff's life. Okay, so basically plaintiff claim, right? Now, you know that the doctor, hospital failed in their duty, but the death was not caused by the failure to treat. The plaintiff would have died anyway. Okay. Now, however, if the answer to the but-for test is no, then you move on to another test, which is remoteness of damage. Whether a reasonable man in exchange of position would foresee the damage that have occurred. Now, if the answer is yes, then the damage is not remote. As a result, you are liable. If the answer is no, then the damage is too remote and you are not liable to the loss. So how is it? What is remoteness of damage? Right? Now, if it's too remote, too far apart from the cause of it, did you foresee the damage? If you foresee, yes, you might be liable. But if you don't foresee the damage is too remote, then you are not liable. Okay. Now look at this case, Wagon Mount. Okay. We shall continue.